My name is Mia, and this is my story. I once thought I had the kind of love people wrote about in poems. The kind of bond that could never be shaken by whispers, glances, or distance. With him, I believed in safety, in trust, in forever. He wasn't just my partner, he was my home. The place where my heart rested when the world felt too heavy. I thought nothing could take that away. But forever has a way of breaking in the quietest moments. It happened one night when everything seemed ordinary. We had just finished dinner. The television murmured softly in the background, and he looked so calm, so normal, that I almost believed the world was perfect. When we went to bed, I curled into him, my heart at peace, or at least I wanted it to be. Sometime after midnight, I felt the faint vibration of his phone against the mattress. He shifted quickly, almost too quickly, to grab it. In that split second, before the screen dimmed again, I saw her name, Lena. It was only a flash, but it cut through me like lightning. My chest tightened as questions I didn't want to ask crowded my mind. Who was she to him? Why was she texting so late? Why did he look so tense? He noticed me watching and gave me a smile, too casual, too practiced. She's just a friend, Mia. Don't worry, don't overthink. Just a friend. 2 words that should have comforted me, but instead, they echoed in my head like an accusation. His laugh followed, warm and light, before he kissed my forehead and turned over. To him, the moment was over. To me, it was the beginning of something I couldn't ignore. I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, while his breathing steadied beside me. My body felt heavy, my heart restless. Trust is supposed to silence the questions, but that night, my trust cracked. If she was only a friend, why did his eyes flicker with guilt? Why did his hand tighten around the phone like it was a secret he couldn't let me see? The next morning, I tried to push it aside. I made his coffee the way he liked, laughed at his small jokes, let him kiss me goodbye at the door. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and no amount of pretending could stop it from growing. Over the next few weeks, I began to notice things I had once ignored. The way his phone seemed glued to his hand, always turned slightly away from me. The sudden, unexplained smiles that lit up his face when he read a message. The way his attention drifted during our conversations, his eyes distant, as if he were already someplace else. I told myself to stop imagining things, to trust him the way I always had. But love doesn't blind you forever. Sooner or later, the truth starts to seep through the cracks. The first time I saw them together, my heart stuttered. We were at a small gathering, just friends catching up, laughter echoing across the room. She was there, Lena. She was beautiful in that effortless way, with hair that framed her face and eyes that seemed to hold too much confidence. I watched as she leaned in a little too close, her hand brushing his arm, her laughter bubbling just for him. It was subtle, maybe invisible to everyone else, but not to me. Not to the woman who knew the way his shoulders tensed when someone touched him. Not to the woman who recognized the flicker of softness in his eyes. That softness used to be mine. I tried to ignore it. I forced a smile, told myself friends laugh, friends touch, friends share closeness. But deep inside, my chest was burning. Every movement between them whispered something I wasn't supposed to hear. When he caught me looking, his smile was calm, almost daring. The kind of smile that said, "You're imagining this, Maya. Don't ruin the night." And so I stayed quiet. I laughed when I needed to, played the role of the happy partner, even while my heart screamed. Later that night, when we came home, he wrapped me in his arms as if nothing had changed. He whispered goodnight, his breath warm against my cheek, his body pressed close to mine. But as I lay there in the dark, my eyes open wide, all I could hear were his words echoing in my mind. She's just a friend. And for the first time since I met him, I wasn't sure if I believed him. The rain was falling hard that evening, hammering against the windows as though the sky itself was trying to warn me. I remember sitting on the couch, pretending to read, pretending to be fine, pretending to believe him. He had kissed me quickly before leaving, his words echoing like an empty promise. I'll be late, work is piling up. But my heart wouldn't rest. Something inside me kept twisting, that small, sharp voice whispering that I was being lied to. I tried to drown it out with tea, with music, with silence. Nothing worked. The longer I sat there, the louder the silence grew, pressing down on me until I couldn't bear it anymore. I grabbed my coat and keys and stepped into the storm. The drive felt endless, the wipers fighting against sheets of rain, but no matter how hard the storm beat down, my chest pounded harder. When I finally pulled into the office parking lot, most of the building was dark, abandoned for the night. But his car was there, waiting. I told myself it didn't mean anything. Maybe he really was inside working late. Maybe my imagination was crueler than reality. But still, my feet carried me across the puddle-soaked pavement, my body trembling with every step. Inside, the hallways stretched long and silent, the kind of silence that makes your pulse sound like thunder in your ears. And then I heard it. Laughter. Not just any laughter. Hers. Lena's. I froze. My knees locked. My breath caught. That sound slid under my skin like ice water. I moved closer, each step dragging like I was sinking in quicksand. My hand pressed against the wall for balance as I reached the crack of the half-open door. And there he was, sitting across from her, his posture relaxed, his eyes lit up in a way I hadn't seen in months. They were leaning close, too close. The space between them wasn't a space at all. It was an invitation. Then I heard it. He whispered her name. Not in passing, not casually. He spoke it softly, tenderly, like it was sacred, like it belonged only to him. The way he used to say mine. My heart splintered. In that single moment, the world I had built with him collapsed. The late-night texts, the casual excuses, the stolen glances. They weren't paranoia. They weren't imagination. They were truth, and I had been too afraid to face it. I stumbled backward, pressing my hand to my mouth to keep the sob from escaping. Tears blurred my vision as the hallway spun around me. The storm outside roared louder, and before I knew it, I was running. Down the stairs, out the door, through the rain. By the time I reached my car, the storm and my tears had become one, soaking me, drowning me. I screamed, a broken, raw sound that ripped from somewhere deep inside me, a sound I didn't recognize as my own. The rain swallowed it whole, but I felt it tear through me, ripping open every wound I had tried to ignore. He said she was just a friend, but friends don't share laughter like that in the dark. Friends don't lean into each other until the world disappears. Friends don't whisper names like prayers, like confessions, like love. I drove home in silence, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly I thought I might break it. My body shook with every sob, every image replaying in my mind. His smile, her face, the softness in his voice that used to belong to me. By the time I stepped back inside our house, dripping and hollow, I knew the truth. I hadn't just lost him. I had already lost myself somewhere along the way, clinging to lies because the truth was too painful to face. That night, the storm outside finally calmed. But inside me, a new storm had just begun. The days after that night blurred into one another, like a cruel dream I couldn't wake from. I moved through the house like a shadow, performing routines, wearing smiles, but inside, I was unraveling. Every time he walked through the door, every time he kissed my cheek with that casual ease, my heart screamed with the memory of his lips whispering another woman's name. I told myself I'd confront him. I rehearsed it in my head 100 times, imagining myself standing strong, demanding answers, breaking the silence. But every time I looked into his eyes, I froze. I saw the man I had loved for years, the man who once held my hand like I was his entire world. And I crumbled. So I played my part. I became the perfect actress in a tragedy no one else knew was unfolding. At breakfast, I poured his coffee, pretending not to notice how his phone lit up with messages he shielded from me. At night, I lay beside him, staring at the ceiling while his body faced the other way, his breaths steady, peaceful, while mine came shallow and restless. Every touch, every kiss, every word felt like lies stitched together to keep me quiet. One evening, as I folded laundry, his phone buzzed on the counter. My hands trembled as I picked it up. My heart hammering so violently, I thought it might break through my chest. I told myself not to look. I told myself I was better than this, but curiosity and pain burned too fiercely. Her name. Over and over again, her name lit up the screen. Short messages, simple, ordinary. But underneath, I heard the whispers, the laughter, the intimacy. The kind of connection I used to have with him before I became invisible in my own home. I put the phone down before I broke it in two. My tears fell silently onto the shirts I was folding, blurring the colors into each other. It felt like drowning in plain sight. And yet, he didn't see me. Or maybe he refused to. Lena wasn't just a friend. She was the presence between us at dinner, the ghost in our conversations, the reason he smiled at his phone when he thought I wasn't watching. She was the one who had taken my place in his heart, long before I realized it. The cruelest part was how normal he acted, how easily he laughed with me, told me about his day, asked about mine. It was like living inside a lie that had been painted so beautifully. I almost convinced myself it wasn't poison. But my body knew. My heart knew. Every night I cried silently, my face buried in the pillow so he wouldn't hear. Every morning I woke up with swollen eyes, plastering on a smile, so the world wouldn't ask questions. I carried my pain like a secret weight, heavy enough to crush me, yet invisible to everyone else. And still, I stayed. Not because I believed his words anymore, not because I didn't know the truth, but because I was terrified of what it would mean if I left. Terrified of being alone, of admitting I had given everything to a man who had handed his love to someone else. The shame cut deeper than the betrayal. I wasn't just angry at him. I was angry at myself, for staying, for hoping, for pretending. One night, as he slept beside me, I lay there in the dark, staring at the outline of his face. The man who was supposed to be my safe place had become the stranger who haunted my every thought. My tears slipped silently onto the sheets, and I whispered to myself words he could never hear. You said she was just a friend, but you don't whisper a friend's name the way you whispered hers. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. The girl I had been, the hopeful, trusting woman who believed in love and forever, was gone. What remained was a hollow version of myself, trapped in a house filled with shadows, waiting for a truth that had already broken me. But deep down, beneath the wreckage of my heart, a small flame flickered, a thought I wasn't ready to face yet. Maybe this wasn't just his betrayal. Maybe it was the beginning of my awakening. The silence between us grew heavier with each passing day. It wasn't the comfortable kind of silence couples share when words aren't needed. No, this silence was sharp, suffocating, filled with everything unspoken. I carried it with me like a second skin, while he walked around as though nothing was wrong. I began to notice the little things more. The way he guarded his phone like it was a lifeline. The way he suddenly stepped outside to take calls. The way he came home smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. It was the perfume that broke me. One night, as he leaned in to kiss me goodnight, the sweet, floral scent clung to his collar. I pulled back slowly, my heart hammering so loudly, I feared he could hear it. I didn't say anything. Not yet. But my body knew, my bones knew. I was living with a liar. The following weekend, I decided I couldn't play the role of the silent wife anymore. I needed proof. Not for him, but for myself. Proof that I wasn't going crazy. Proof that the whispers in my head were real. So I followed him. I remember my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles turned white as I trailed his car through the city. The streets blurred beneath the glow of streetlights, my stomach churning with every turn he took. Finally, he pulled into a quiet street on the far side of town, where the air felt heavier, where secrets seemed to thrive. And there she was, Lena, standing by the curb, her umbrella shielding her from the drizzle. She looked radiant in a way I hadn't in months, her smile brightening the night the moment she saw him. He stepped out of the car, and my world shattered in slow motion. The way his eyes lit up, the way his hand brushed against hers as naturally as breathing, the way he leaned in, close enough that I could feel the electricity sparking between them, even from my car. I couldn't move. My body was frozen, my breath shallow, my vision blurring with tears. Watching them was like watching a reflection of my own memories, except I was no longer in the frame. I was the outsider, the intruder, the ghost. And then it happened. He pulled her close, whispering something against her ear. She laughed softly, tilting her head the way I once did when his words belonged to me. My chest burned, my hands trembled, and before I could stop myself, I slammed my palm against the steering wheel, the horn blasting into the night. They both froze. His head snapped toward me, his face draining of color as recognition hit. Her smile faltered, but she didn't look ashamed. She looked victorious, like she had won a battle I hadn't even realized I was fighting until it was too late. I jumped out of the car, the rain soaking through my clothes, my hair plastered to my face. My voice cracked as I screamed the words I had been holding inside for weeks. You said she was just a friend. The sound of my own voice startled me. It was raw, broken, furious. My chest heaved as I stood there, drenched and trembling, staring at the man I thought I knew. He opened his mouth, stammering, trying to form excuses that dissolved in the rain. But it didn't matter. I had heard enough. I had seen enough. I turned to Lena, her smug silence cutting deeper than any insult. She didn't flinch. She didn't apologize. She simply stood there, hands still brushing his arm, as though I was nothing more than an inconvenient interruption. The storm around us seemed to fade into nothing, as my own storm roared inside me. I realized then that the pain of betrayal wasn't just about him. It was about me, about how long I had allowed myself to believe the lies, how much of myself I had sacrificed in the name of love. My voice broke into a whisper as I looked at him one last time. You whispered her name the way you used to whisper mine. And then I turned away. I didn't run this time. I walked, slowly, deliberately, each step heavy with grief, but also laced with something new. A strength I hadn't known I still had, behind me. I could hear him calling my name, his voice desperate, panicked, but I didn't look back. Not this time. The rain washed over me, and for the first time in months, I let it cleanse me. The storm had destroyed everything I thought I knew. But somewhere in that destruction, a new version of me was beginning to rise. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room, drenched clothes clinging to me until the cold forced me to change. But the chill inside my chest remained. His voice echoed in my ears, calling my name as I walked away. For a moment, I wondered if I should have stayed. Let him explain. Let him weave another web of lies for me to live in. But then I remembered. The perfume on his collar, the laughter in the office, the way he whispered her name as though it was a secret gift meant only for her. And suddenly, there was nothing left to explain. He came home hours later. I heard the key turn in the lock, the door creak open. His footsteps, hesitant, against the wooden floor. For the first time, he didn't walk in with confidence. For the first time, he knew he had been caught. He stood in the doorway, rain dripping from his jacket, his face pale and tired. His eyes searched for mine, desperate, but I didn't give him the comfort of finding them. I sat still, my arms wrapped around myself, my gaze fixed on the shadows dancing across the wall. Please, he whispered, his voice cracking. It's not what you think. I laughed then. A hollow, bitter laugh that startled even me. Not what I think? I heard you. I saw you. You whispered her name the way you used to whisper mine. Don't insult me with lies anymore. He sank to his knees in front of me, reaching for my hands, but I pulled them back. The distance between us, wider than any ocean. His tears fell freely, his words tumbling out in desperate confessions. It was a mistake. I was lonely. I was weak, but it meant nothing. You're my wife, my world. Please don't leave me. His world, his wife. Yet he had handed his love to someone else like it was disposable, replaceable. I wanted to scream, to throw every broken piece of my heart at him. But instead, I found myself silent. Because deep inside, I had already left him. The woman I was, the one who begged, who hoped, who forgave, had died in the storm. I rose slowly, my legs trembling but steady. I looked down at him, this man who once held all of me, and I realized I didn't recognize him anymore. Or maybe I did, and that was the problem. I lost myself loving you, I whispered. I gave everything I had, and still it wasn't enough. But this isn't about you anymore. This is about me, and I won't stay with someone who whispers another woman's name when I'm supposed to be his everything. His sobs filled the room, his hands reaching for me like chains trying to hold me in place. But I stepped back. For the first time, I chose distance. I tacked my bag slowly, deliberately. Every fold of clothing, every zipper, felt like closing a chapter. He begged, pleaded, promised, but his words fell on ears that no longer belonged to him. When I finally reached the door, my suitcase in hand, I turned to him one last time. My voice was steady, even as tears streamed down my face. You said she was just a friend, but you made her the love you couldn't be for me. And now, I have to be the love I should have always been for myself. And with that, I walked out. The night air was cold, but it didn't bite the way it had before. It felt cleansing, sharp, real. The storm had passed, leaving behind a sky full of stars peeking through the clouds. I stood there for a moment, breathing deeply, letting the truth settle inside me. I wasn't walking into emptiness. I was walking into freedom. The road ahead was uncertain, terrifying even. But as I took those first steps away from the house, away from the lies, I felt something stir inside me. A strength I thought I had lost forever. And for the first time in a long time, I whispered a name too. My own. Sachin's.